All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. This is going to be a lesson on how we are the Israelites, man. All right, the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans they are the Israelites, and their slavery was prophesied, man. Now, people say, "Oh, nah, the slavery of the Israelites going into Atlantic slave trade, that was just bad people doing bad things." No, that was actually part of prophecy, man. And people might think I'm going to take it to where I'm going to take it with Genesis 15. I'm not going to take it there, because I already know that Genesis 15th chapter with the 400-year captivity, I'm already aware that that's speaking of Egypt, right? The ancient Egypt's captivity, right? But just how that slavery was prophesied, right? So was the Atlantic slave trade prophesied. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. This is Genesis chapter 15 and verse 13. And he said unto Abram, which is Abraham, before his name was changed, nor of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Now, this was said before Abraham even had his name changed, before Abraham even had one son, right? It was done before, said before he even had his name changed, said before he even had any people that came from his loins, man. He didn't even have an actual son at that time. He had a nephew, you know. Lot was around him, but he never had his own actual seed, man. At that particular point, he never had 8 sons at this time when this was said. He didn't even know that his grandchildren was going to be called Israelites. He didn't know he was going to have a grandson called Jacob. You see, he didn't know was going to have a son called Isaac at that time. He didn't know that he was going to have a son called Ishmael. You know, he didn't have a son called Ishmael at this time, man. He never had it. His son gets born they read about his son coming to be on the earth, his first son Ishmael. You read about him coming to be born in the chapter after this. But before he even had any seed, before he even had any descendants, right, before he even knew what their name was going to be, they already had a destiny, man. They already had a path that they had to take, which is slavery. So people get all bent out of shape when a child might be born blind, right? But before the Israelites was born, right, before they was born, they had 400 years of slavery to go through. Before the Israelites was even made as a nation, they had 400 years of captivity that they had to fulfill, right? But people will get caught up out of shape, right, when you might have a bad day or something like that. But the Israelites had 400 years worth of bad days in that captivity, and had many decades and centuries and millenniums of bad years after that, man. Because it's like the Israelites have always been in captivity or been getting punished, because they've always had that. It's almost like they've always had that covenant with Yahweh. They've had it for thousands of years, man, right? And therefore, them curses and blessings have continually been chasing them and being put on them as a mark for their disobedience, until the time came where Yahweh Shai came through the line of David, and caused for himself to die to remove that curse, which the curse is going to be removed completely once we're brought under the new covenant, man. Which it always links back. You can always link that back, man. You can always link the new covenant to the salvation every time, man. Now, I said that I already just proved that the Egyptian captivity was prophesied, right? Now I'm going to show that the modern Egyptian captivity was also prophesied. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68. And Yahweh shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And they shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Now, let me just jump up to verse 15. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I commanded this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Now it seems like that's like a potential thing it could happen, but actually it's definite that this was gonna have to happen. It was definite that he was gonna have to go through this. That we was gonna have to go through it, man. Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass When it says in the Bible that it shall come to pass, it means that it has to happen. It pretty much means so that it has to happen, so that you're no longer waiting for it to happen. If we hadn't went through the blessings and the curse, we'd still be waiting for the blessings and the curse to come upon us, right? And for us to be scattered among all the nations, so that the whole mystery of the Gentiles could be fulfilled, right? If Yahweh Shai hadn't been born yet through the line of David, we'd still be waiting for that to happen. So it's a good thing that these things have happened, because that means that they're no longer waiting for them to happen, man. So that prophecy is getting closer and closer to being completely fulfilled. And when prophecy is completely fulfilled, then we're in our kingdom, man. And then we're just doing what we want to do then in righteousness. Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 1, and it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, meaning these things has to happen, so that they don't happen no more. The blessing, all right, so we have to be blessed for a time period. That happened when we was in the kingdom of Solomon, right? When we was in Israel under King Solomon's rule. His father, King David, had already set everything in order. He had different nations in subjection, right? So when when King Solomon came through, it was even easier to just rule it with wisdom, because there wasn't no need for battle at that time. Everybody was already in order at that point, man. His father, King David, had already straightened everybody up to make them know, don't even try test us, because you know I'm with that. He wouldn't there wasn't trying to mess with King David like that, man. And every time they did, they got stomped through the ground, man. But it's not the time of being a warrior like that no more. And the curse, which I've said before, meaning that we was also gonna have to go through the curse. Now, whether people want to believe it, you've got all these Israelites that get angry. You've got all these people that want to rather be so-called black that get angry when we talk about being under curses. But they're cursed, man. You can clearly see that they're cursed, right? If all it takes for you to make somebody not be in the earth no more is for them to step on your brand new J's, you're cursed. If every single time you see somebody that looks like you get into attack mode, but when you see somebody that looks opposite to you, that's actually your real enemy. That's actually did way worse things to you than that other person that looks like you ever did, right? On a mass scale. And then you become like a civilized citizen at that point. Well, you ain't right in the head, man. You're cursed. You're cursed, man. The Israelites are cursed. All you have to do to see that we're cursed as a nation is look at the things that our women do, man. Look at the things that the women of our nation are doing. They're nuts, mate. They're off their head. They're nuts. They're tapped, man. They're crazy. They're done for, man. They're lunatics. Seriously. Like, if you look at the things that our women do and that they actually expect respect for, they're all over the place, man. They're all over the place. Verse 1 again. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whether Yahweh thy power have scattered thee, right? Whether Yahweh thy power have driven thee, whether Yahweh thy power have driven thee. So what that's saying is that you're going to be scattered in all these different nations because you're going to face that curse, right? And then when you're in those other nations, you're going to speak about the curses that you're under. Now, those other people that are calling themselves the chosen, they ain't doing that, right? They ain't doing that. In fact, they're just crying to America for more military assistance. That's what they do. They just cry to America, their daddy. You see? But we cry to Yahweh. Bahasham Yahweh Shai. That's who we cry to. We ain't crying for America to give us some more military might. That's what they do. That's what they do, man. We ain't got a word that we just throw into the air to where people feel scared to be able to say anything about us. They have anti this and anti that. Anti SEM. Yeah. That's what they say, man. That's what they say, which don't make any sense, by the way. But the point is, I'm showing that I ain't trying to even get into all of that. The point was that the Israelites was in captivity together, man. Right? Now let me see if I can find this. The part where it says Judah and was. Let me see if I can find this. Salakia. Here we go. Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 33. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Now, what is that captivity that people know of, where the house of Judah and the house of Israel were brought into captivity together? Because it definitely wasn't the Assyrians, right? It wasn't the Assyrians, it wasn't the Babylonians, because the Assyrians took the northern kingdom, excuse me, right? And the Babylonians took the northern kingdom, the southern kingdom, excuse me. So where is it that these people are getting, where is it that this happened then? It happened in America, which is Babylon the Great, which is that place that's spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, because it has all the characteristics spiritually as those places combined, man, which is why it's going to receive the destruction it's going to receive, man. It has the spirit of Egypt because it's got the Israelites in captivity over there, right? And it has the spirit of Sodom because it's a carefree place that people live in all manner of demonic ways, man, right? You've got these clothing brands that are doing weird things, right? You've got these celebrities that get pushed out as being role models that are weirdos, right? Everything that you see on the advert or the TV show is like a damn there's some hidden occultic, esoteric witchcraft behind it, right? This place is just all over the place, man. This place is all over the place. There's always some kind of hidden agenda with everything that you see. And and overall, they've had the Israelites in captivity over there, man. And the point of this lesson is to just focus mainly on that the captivity of the Israelites was prophesied, man. It was prophesied that they was going to go into captivity together, and they did in America, man. And people don't want to believe that, they don't want to accept that, but it's the truth. And just like how they was brought into captivity, and that was prophesied, so is the captivity that we're going to put, the people that put us in captivity, being prophesied, man. Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 1. For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them. And that's all the other Israelites that are scattered in other nations too, right? All the ones that would be like the ones that you hear about in Revelation 7 and 9. Let me go back to this. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob, because they're part of the house of Jacob too. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors, man. Right? So people that are boasting in the oppression of the Israelites right now, fair enough. Boast all you want, man. Boast, glory in the pride, be happy that you did everything that you did to us. But just know that it was prophesied that he was going to do that. Just like how the Egyptians, right, when the ancient Egyptians had the Israelites in captivity, they was thinking, man, Pharaoh was saying, I ain't letting y'all go. I ain't letting you go. Right? Or he was trying to put stipulations on who was allowed to go. Okay, the men can go. Then they get jacked up. Then they be like, okay, the men and this people can go. Then they keep doing it until the point where it's like, you know what, get out of here. But Esau's even worse than him. Esau's saying, nah, they ain't never leaving, ever. And he's saying when the person comes to try and save them, I'm going to fight you. That's what Esau's on. Because he's even more mad than the Canaanites, man. I mean, yeah, he's more mad than the Canaanites. He's more mad than the nation of Mizraim, Matazariam. He's more mad than them too. He's worse, the worst of the heathen. Matthew chapter 18 and verse 7, woe unto the world because of offences, for it must needs be that offences come. So it was a need that we went into that captivity, but it's also going to be a need that we get justice for that. But woe to that man by whom the offence cometh, right? So glorying in what you did, you can glory in what you did to us if you want to, right? But the Egyptians, they was glorying when they was doing what they was doing. But here's the thing about it. When you read that whole story of Exodus, all of that stuff was predestined to happen before the Israelites even existed as a nation. In Genesis, the 15th chapter, it was spoken of, right? Just like how the removal of the Canaanites out of the land was also spoken about in Genesis, the 15th chapter. but they still had a bit more wickedness to fulfill. Let me prove that. And then that dials it back to a scripture that I got in my mind, actually, that I wasn't even thinking of in this lesson, right? This is Genesis chapter 15 and verse 13. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve I will judge, and afterward they shall come out with great substance. So this was all planned. It was already planned, man. That whole story of Exodus was already planned. Now, the Egyptians didn't think it was planned, right? They thought, man, we're ruling over these people. We're going to do what we want to do. We're going to make them serve with rigor. And we ain't going to let them go. That's what they thought, right? And that's what the modern day Egyptians, the Edomites, that's what they think. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace, and thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither, for the iniquity of the Ammonites, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And guess what? The iniquity of the Idumeans is not yet full, man. Let's prove that real quick. This is 2 Ezra chapter 15 and verse 6. For wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. So there's certain things that these people on this earth have to still do, to where Yahweh's like, okay, you've did exactly what I wanted you to do now. Excuse me. You did exactly what I wanted you to do now. Now I'm going to bring the judgments that I already said I was going to bring on you. Verse 7. Therefore saith Yahweh, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, see, which they profanely commit. Neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. So Yahweh's getting ready to perform this, man, but these wicked nations just have to do a few more things, man. All right? And so lucky for how my voice might sound on this lesson, man. All right? So lucky, but hopefully I proved the point, man. The Israelites' captivities was already all prophesied, man. Just like how their freedom is. Shalom to the elected nation of Israel. All praises to Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai. Ba'asham Rakar Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shalom to the elected nation of Israel. Shalom.